Lumineers! It is time to take a rest from your quest and check on in to the Lore Keeper's Inn. I'm your host, Katie, and we have made it to episode 5 of our series, The Ultimate Guide to Limited for Disney Lorcana, Archazia's Island. So in the series, we're going through every single card and rating them and letting you kind of know which cards you might want to consider, which cards you might want to pass, skip. We have done so far Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, and Ruby, but today we are doing Sapphire. So a little bit of context, I have a nice little rating scale here where we are rating on a scale of 1 to 5. So 5 is your absolutely keep. It's a great card and it's probably going to be useful in any scenario, and it doesn't have any conditions you need to make or any conditions you need to meet to make it valuable. A 4-star is a card that you don't necessarily auto keep, but you're probably going to keep in most scenarios. It might get outclassed by other cards you have. You might not have room for it in your deck, but it is a very good card. 3 is where some of the cards fall into, where it's really going to depend on everything else you keep. So once you pick your 4s and your 5s that you're going to put in your deck, then 3s are where you start to round out your curve, see what the synergies are. So it's just going to depend on those other cards you have in your deck. 2 is conditionally include. That's going to be a card that's not useless. However, it is the last card I'm adding. I'm going through everything I definitely want to keep, and then 2s are going to be the ones I add at the very end to round out my deck. And then we have 1 star, which is pretty much unplayable. It's going to be something that's very, very dependent on certain conditions. It's going to be something that ultimately won't work. We're thinking things like puppies, or there's only 3 puppies. So if the card is all about puppies, it's not going to work. So there are unfortunately some 1 stars, but maybe that just means it's good and constructed. So that is how we're going to be rating the cards and how we've been rating them so far, which means we can dive into our very first card. So we're starting out here with Clarabelle. Clarabelle is a 4-cost inkable news reporter that is a 3/3 with support, and she has breaking story. Your other characters with support get +1 strength. She also quests for 2. So there are only 8 characters with support in this set, so that ability, her breaking story ability, isn't guaranteed to fire off. However, her stats, her having support and her questing for 2, this does make it where she's a 4-star for me in the sense that I love having support. I love questing for 2. Her stats I wish were a little beefier, but at the same time, she's a nice card to round out your curve and to help you quest. Next, we have Scrooge McDuck. He's a resourceful miser. He is a 4 inkable, 4/4 that quests for 1. 2 abilities here. He has put it to good use. You may exert 4 items of yours to play this character for free, or Fortune Hunter, which is when you play this character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal an item, put it into your hand, put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. I've said the word items quite a bit. I've covered in my past videos that there are 14 items. So 4 cards is 4 cards plus this is 12.5% of your deck. Plus you're adding another card for this, for it to go dig for an item. So you're really going all, long story short, 1 star. I really don't know a situation where you're building a whole deck around this 1 card. So unfortunately, this is 1 star just due to its limited usefulness in limited. We have Mateus, who is a 2-cost inkable. Stat line is 3/2, quest for 1, with the ability of Proud to Serve. Your queen characters gain ward. There are 8 queens, so not super valuable, but you might have a queen in your deck. And there's also not a ton of action, so the whole ward thing is not as valuable in this limited set. However, there are only 6 2-cost cards with 3 strength. He could be a valuable card for if he's challenging into a 1/2 1-drop that your opponent played. So I do think there is some value here with his stat line. Because of that, I did break him as a 3 because he's something that I'm highly considering just based on his stats line alone and being inkable. Now we have the card that was one of the very first cards we actually got from set 7 when Moana 2 came out. It is a 3-cost inkable 1/6. That quests for 1. That's it. It's a vanilla card in the traditional sense, where she doesn't really have anything cool going on. She's gonna be around for a while, so she has a 6 willpower. So I am putting her at a 3, where I'm probably gonna include her. It really depends on what else I have in my 3-cost slot. The fact that she's gonna be really hard to deal with. She's not challenging for a lot. However, she's gonna stay on the board for a while. So I put her at a 3 cost just because I really do like the fact that she's one of the rare cards that has a very very big willpower to deal with. Now, our total change of pace, we have a very scary looking guy, Monsieur de Arc, who is a despicable proprietor, 1-cost inkable that has a 1-2 stat line. His ability is, I've come to collect. Whenever this character quests, you may banish a chosen item of yours to draw a card. So I've gone back and forth with items because it really is going to depend how many items you have when these cards, and this is going to come up a ton in Sapphire because Sapphire really focuses on utilizing items. They're 14 items, so he's a 5 out of 5 if you go all in on items, but I don't think I would recommend that. He's a 1-2, so he's probably going to only quest once, and he has to quest in order to use his ability. So I have a hard time wanting to keep him unless I know that I have items that also I want to banish, because if I'm keeping items, it's probably because I want to use them. It's an amber coil or something like that where I have a plan for it. So I don't super love this card. I put him at a 2 just because I don't know. I'm not a Sapphire expert, so maybe I just don't see the beauty of something like this, but I do think he's a 2-star just based on the fact that I don't see myself going all in on items, knowing that there's not any items in this set that are going to 100% just win you the game because you have them. Moving on to Gaetan Mollier. They're really testing my French pronunciation here. He is a 3 inkable, the mole, 3-4 stats, and a quest for 1. So this is another vanilla. Similar to Moana, he's only going to go into my deck based on the curve, but he's different than Moana. Obviously, he's going to actually have a strength of 3 versus Moana with the 1. So I put him at 3 stars because I'm probably going to include him if I need to. I like his stat lines. He's not a super exciting cards, but once I'm going through that first pass after I've got all my 4 and 5 stars in my deck, he's definitely one that I will be considering. Now, this is one of the more popular cards in the set. It's one of the last ones revealed, but left a lasting impact. It is a 3-cost inkable Belle, Apprentice Inventor. She is a 3-3, and during your turn, you may banish a chosen item of yours to play this character for free. So you have to have her in your hand, you have to banish an item, and once again, this is you're keeping an item, but you want to banish it. It's not an item you want to keep. So she's obviously going to be a huge problem in Constructed, but in Limited, I don't know, a 3-3-3 that I'm probably not going to get to play for free. It's a similar situation where I have her at 2 stars, where I am hedging my bets that I'm so afraid of being very wrong that everyone's like, no, you don't understand. The limited items deck is the way you're going to win. I don't see that, but I am putting her at 2 because she's inkable and she's not useless. A 3-3 is still usable, but her ability is probably not something I'm going to get any value out of in this set. So now we're moving into puppy time. So you're going to hear me use the term the puppy pit apparel, and this is a 3 uninkable lucky runt of the litter, a 1-3. Whenever this character quests, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may reveal a number of puppy cards and put them in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck. There are 3 puppies in this set. So yes, this puppy does quest for 2. And yes, he is a 1-3, which isn't terrible. I'm not going to keep him most of the time, if ever, because the fact he's uninkable, I don't know. I do like the fact that he is a 1-3. If he was a 1-cost 1-3 that quests for 2 or 2-cost inkable, I'm just quantifying this a lot to say that I am not eager to keep a card like this in my deck. It is you have to do it, so then you have to put it at your bottom. You're not going to find a puppy. All that being said, Lucky is a 1-star for me, just based on the fact that I'm pretty much just avoiding any puppy pit apparel. Puppy pit apparel sounds like I'm saying like it's the clothes you wear in a puppy. It's the puppy pit of apparel. But either way, 1-star here. So now we have Dawson, who is a 1-cost uninkable 1-2 that quests for 1, and once during your turn, whenever a card is being put into your inkwell, look at the top card of your deck. You may put it either on the top or the bottom of your deck. So this is a kind of card where you're kind of massaging your draw power. This is the kind of ability that I personally do like. Now, he is basically an item because you're not questing with him, especially if you want to use his effect. You either want to use his effect or you want to use him to quest. And in this case, I'm using him for his effect. So he is now a 1-cost item that I'm putting on the board, and I am, after I ink, making sure that the next card is the one that I want, and I don't have to discard it. So for me, this is valuable. This is a 4-star card. I think it's something like Ursula's Cauldron, where I'm making sure that I get to a card that's beneficial based on my current hand. And my hand is going to be, very different. It's sealed in draft. You don't really know how things are going to end up. So Dawson helps get me towards a more predictable path versus just drawing a card and seeing what it is each turn. Tamatoa. So we got a 6 cost inkable 4/5 that quests for 2. Cool's Collection is his first ability that reads, when you play this character, return up to 2 item cards from your discard to your hand, or I'm Beautiful Baby, which is whenever this character quests, you may play this item, or play an item for free. We've talked about this. It's a bummer. There's only 14 items. I know this is going to be kind of like the theme of this video is, are you doing the whole item things? He's expensive. He costs 6. Items aren't free until you quest. You also have to get your items into your discard, and there's only a few cards to do it. All of that being said, this is a 1 star because it's a lot of hoops to jump through to make an engine work that I don't know is worth it. Like I said, if you're playing an item, it's because you want to use it usually in this format. So there's not a lot of sacrificial popsicles out there that you are banishing on purpose. Because of that, he's sitting at 1 star, unfortunately. So here we have Kita. Kita is a 4 cost inkable, creative thinker, 3/3 stats, quest for 1. She has ward, and also you exert her to look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one on your inkwell face down and exerted, and the other on the top of your deck. I really like this ability. For me, this is something that I would probably even consider a 4 star. I'm going to put it at 3 star, and that is because you're including her if you have more expensive cards that you want to play later, because this is one of the only ways to be able to ramp, meaning this is the only way to get extra ink into your well. So she's definitely something that I would include, especially if you have expensive things later that you want to invest in playing. This is one where you're going to look at your upper end of your curve and see, is that something where I'm going to need a little boost? If you do need a boost, then absolutely I think Kita is something that would be important to put into your deck to get you over the finish line to where you need to be for those higher cost characters later in the game. Next up, we have Little Toulouse here. He is a 1 cost inkable, 1/3, quest for 1, and nothing else going on here. It's just a little guy. So like the other 1-drops, I mean, you're going to need some in your deck, and he's got the same stat lines as like the Olafs of the world, where he's generally going to survive being challenged at least once. So I think as far as 1-drops go, he's solid. So I put him at 3 just because I'm putting it through that caveat of him as a 1-drop. You're going to definitely consider him just based on the fact that 1/3 can be something that is a problem to deal with. Now, he's not dealing damage, so you want to make sure you have some way to do that. Otherwise, he's a fine 3 star 1-drop. Speaking of little kittens, we got Marie, who is the favored kitten at 2 costs, inkable. She is a 1/2 that quests for 2 with an ability of I'll show you. Whenever this character quests, you may give chosen character -2 strength this turn. So this is one that's probably only going to be able to fire off once. She is not going to hit back for much either. So I put her at 3 stars, just knowing that questing for 2 is great. Giving -2 strength, also pretty good. But that being said, she is not going to swing back for a lot, and she's not going to be able to endure a lot with her willpower. So definitely look and see, are you able to pair with something where that's going to be beneficial? Are you going to have, if you have rush characters, this could be beneficial, so that maybe your rush character can survive rushing in. So it's really just going to be dependent on those factors. Next up on the list of puppies, we have Pepper, the quick thinking puppy, who is 3, inkable, 2/2 that quests for 1, and in the nick of time, whenever one of your puppy characters is banished, you may put that card into your inkwell, face down and exerted. So another puppy pit of peril card. So only 3 puppies, so 1 star. Not a lot to say about it other than I can't imagine why you'd include it most of the time. So I'm so sorry, puppy pit of peril. And we're not done with puppies. We have one more puppy. So the last puppy we have is Freckles. He's a good boy. That's his name. He's a 2, inkable, 2/2. So he's just so cute. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -1 strength this turn. So I rated him as a 3, and that is because it might tilt a challenge in your favor early on, giving that -1 strength, or maybe something's going to be able to survive on your side in a challenge. Otherwise, he's a pretty so-so 2-cost card, but maybe I gave him a 3 just because I felt so bad for rating all the other puppies so low. But I do think that -1 strength could be beneficial. Now we have Honey Lemon. She's a 2-cost inkable, chemistry whiz, 2/2, quest for 1, with pretty great, huh? Whenever you play a Floodborn character, if you use Shift to play them, you may remove 2 damage from chosen character. So now we're back down to the bad news, because 16 Floodborns, and are you really going to Shift into a Floodborn? That's like really threading the needle. You have a Floodborn and the Shift target. So that's why I rated this one 2 stars. She also has to be in play when all of this happens. So all that being said, the only value of her card is that she's inkable. So she sits in the probably not category. Robin Hood here is a 3-cost inkable with Eye for Detail, 3/3, Quest for 1, and support. I've mentioned a few times that I think support is going to be really important. I'm a big fan of being a 3/3 on turn 3, that then if he quests on turn 4, you're able to give that 3 to another character. So I like that effect, and I think it can be something that could put you over the edge, and then he is able to survive being challenged with his 3 willpower. Obviously, if multiple things go into him, then that's not the case. So the combination of being a support on turn 3 made me rate him 4 stars because, like I said, I really think that support could be very beneficial, especially trying to overcome some of the bigger characters on your opponent's side. Now, this is one of the more mean named cards. She is Penny the Orphan. They call her out. She's just Penny the Orphan. There's Penny and then Penny the Orphan. Either way, she's a clever child, 2-cost inkable, 2/1, and her ability reads are bottle worked. While you have a hero character in play, this character gains ward. So back to the statistics here. We have 58 heroes in this set. However, ward is not super helpful because there's minimal actions. She does quest for 2, but she's probably going to only do that once. So all that being said, I would put her at 2 stars. It's just something where I do like that she can quest for 2, but all the other things are just not super helpful. And the minute she's challenged, she's going to be banished. This is Jebediah Farnsworth, but I call him Cookie. He's the Expedition Cook. That's a 4-cost inkable, 3/3, another one with support. But he's got a little bit of extra here. I got your basic food groups. When you play this character, chosen character gains resist 1 until the start of next turn. So he is a pumped up Robin Hood. So I gave him 4 stars because I like it. I like the support. I like resist. I think this is beneficial. Obviously, Robin Hood costs 1 less, but I think the resist factor makes it where I think resist will carry you pretty far in a meta without removal because it's all about challenging, and resist can really help tilt things in your favor. Baymax here is the upgraded robot, 5-cost inkable, 3/5 with support. Whenever you play a character, look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Floodborn character and put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. I put this as 3 cost because ultimately 16 Bloodborns, and it's a must ability, not a may. So I feel like it would be stressful to pull these cards knowing I'm probably going to have to put them on the bottom of my deck. So I put them at 3 cost just because I don't know. Maybe I will have a couple Floodborns. Obviously, the 5-cost willpower is quite nice. Having support for 3 is also good. So it's really just going to depend. Of all the other supports I did, since he's more expensive, put him at a 3 because I much prefer the other ones than him specifically. So we're out of characters and then into actions. So we're looking here at Water Has Memory, which is a 1-cost uninkable that reads, look at the top 4 cards of chosen player's deck. Put 1 on the top of their deck and the rest on the bottom in any order. So this is one where I really quite like it. I put it as a 5. I'm not keeping this up in my opening hand. However, once I am cooking and it's like turn 3, turn 4, I would likely then want to play this because ultimately I know at that point usually card draw is an issue, and this allows me to get 3 cards that I absolutely under no conditions want to see and send them to the bottom, and hopefully leave them with a card that's not super helpful, some kind of 1-cost card that's not great, that's not inkable. I get to choose. So if I know they've been selling for ink, I get to choose to put all their inkable cards on the bottom. So I really like this card. I think it can be very good to be a good tempo play to kind of throw off their plans. It's kind of cheating because they don't really know what you put at the bottom. Either way, I just really like this card. So I did put it at 5 stars. It's cheap. It is uninkable, but I really think the value is going to be worth it. Speaking of actions from the movie Frozen, we have All Is Found. Now this one is an action and song. It's a 5-cost inkable where you can put up to 2 cards from your discard into your inkwell, face down, and exerted. I think this is something that is a 4-star, and that's because this is another thing where are you going to try to play a 7-cost, 8-cost card later in the game? Something like this would be very helpful, especially if you sing with it, you put down that 2 ink, and then your next turn, you have 3 ink from your previous turn. So that's a huge boost that can get you to that final edge of your curve, and it's going to be very important if you do intend to play more expensive cards later. You might not always include this card because maybe you're really trying an aggro approach and you don't need to ramp as heavy as this card is, and this is too much of an investment. But I still think it's a 4 stars. Just it could be a very useful card if you're just trying to really get that huge edge of ink, which can be hard to do in limited. Onto the items, we have our Sapphire Coil, our Pentultimate Coil, which is a 2 inkable that is Brilliant Shine. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may give chosen character -2 strength this turn. So, like most items, it's going to be dependent on your other cards that I keep first. I like a persistent effect. I'm getting better at recognizing the value of a persistent effect. I tend to throw it away as like, oh, it's a lot of investment. So this one, I mean, you get to use every turn that you're inking. However, I really just need to see what other cards I have. So because of that, I am going to put it at 3 stars. I just want to make the cards the characters I want and then see if this card is going to play into the strategy I've built around the characters that I've kept. And the very last one is Baymax Charging Station. It's an item that is 3 cost inkable. And whenever you play a Floodborn character, if you use Shift to play him, you may draw a card. So right off bat, 1 star. There's 16 Floodborns. It's super duper unlikely to pull it off in limited. And it's a wasted turn. You're basically using this 3 cost card for 1 card draw maybe. Like even if you have the duo, you found a shift target and a shifting a Floodborn, I still don't think it's necessarily worth it. So I'm going to put this definitely at a 1 star, which is a bummer to end on a low note. But that's it for Sapphire. I think there are some very versatile cards in this ink. I like the support that you see. I don't love all the Floodborn synergy because, like I said, the Floodborn is really hard to pull off and limited. But otherwise, you can really flex these cards to support, for lack of a better term, your other characters that you've picked. So I'm very excited to see how these cards play out. Like I said, the items are kind of a miss for me just because it's a lot of investment for something that is not going to pay off most of the time. That being said, I still think there's some very exciting cards that we went over today. So, like always, do you agree? Do you disagree? We have one more single ink color coming. That's steel. And then we have our dual inks, and then we're done. Can you believe it? So I'm excited to hear what you guys think. Comment below. Make sure to like and subscribe. As always, there's always more room at the end. And if you don't know where to find us, just take the second star to the right exit and head straight on till morning.